Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Nani. Nani says it's after 4. Where are you? Well, it's really after 4 where I'm at, Nani. Sorry about that. I'm late. Um, Maybe because I forgot that I was in a trial tonight, filling in a trial tonight for somebody. Um, it's Nani's run for those who aren't in the know. So we'll be doing that later on tonight. And I was like, oh God. And so I had to do a few things real quick and got them taken care of. I think we're good. I think we're good. All right. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. Man, I had a really good weekend. I got to play some great games. I'm just a nerd. I love playing games. Hey, Franny, what's going on? It's been a little bit. Friday we got to play. I didn't do any streams on Friday, guys. Sorry about that. Almost always, pretty much every Friday I stream. But it just didn't work out this one, and I didn't know that until it kind of happened. But I did get to play Friday. I got to GM some of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere RPG by Brotherwise Games with Nani and a few other people, Ravenswind, who plays Helldivers with me, and several other people. So that was really cool. It was really fun. I was playtesting some stuff to do a review, and I suspected it was going to be a little bit awkward, so I didn't want to stream it. That's the TLDR. But we will stream that once we get to. We're doing the intro quest. We'll stream more of that once we get through it, just so you guys can see what it's like. Love it. Highly recommend it. Hey, what's up, Frozatron? And then, got to play a lot of Dune this weekend. Helldivers is adding more content, and that's awesome. But today we're here to talk about some ESO. Good evening. Setting up heals. Okay. I'll be back in the game in a bit. Okay. Awesome. I'm back a bit in the game. I'm sorry. I'm doing really well. Yeah, doing well. Still playing. You know, I'm kind of out of all of my set runs. Several of my harder core groups kind of fell apart. I left one of them just because it was kind of a training group, and they've been training for a long time. I just was doing too much rock growth, and that's where they're at. But that's what we're doing tonight. So I had to get less rock growth in my life, even though I love that trial. Yeah, so let's talk about what's going on with the future of ESO. And I just want to reiterate, and this is a little bit probably foreboding for some of you guys, that I have enjoyed ESO for a long time. I played the first Elder Scrolls game. I played the second Elder Scrolls game. And I played some version of pretty much all of them since then, although the newer ones I played less of before Elder Scrolls Online. So, have loved the IP for a long time, and it's the main game I play, main game I cover here on the channel. I just want to say good things about it, guys. It's not all doom and gloom today, but I think we've had a chance. What I really want to get to today, the core of what I want to talk about, hopefully we'll have time, is, ZOS came out with their roadmap here. Let's pull that up, actually, and let me change the view here a little bit for us. And this is actually the February roadmap. It looks like it's up here. This guy right here, it won't let me blow this up. Well, this guy right here is season 1, season 0, season 1, season 2. I can't believe they did a season 0. It's really funny. That's a programmer thing, guys, is why there's a season 0. It happens a little bit in tabletop RPGs as well, I guess, but it's just kind of funny. Most people don't start counting at 0, developers. Yes, yes, you will see me tonight for VRG. Yeah. Okay, cool. Sky is back as well. Oh, wow. Awesome. Yeah. I will be there, Nani. Hey, what's up, boss? Rosatron, it's it's a little nerdy. Yeah. Starting at zeros, it's just kind of funny. Depends what programming language I guess you're using. But anyways, they've got this, they told us what they were going to do, and I think at this point we're basically through the end of the feedback. We are through with the feedback cycle for update 49, which is the season 0 here. Okay, so this is going live in March like 8th or 9th or something like that. We'll find the exact date here, but we got a little bit, and it's going live to consoles as well. So they've brought PC and console in line, and I think that's why some of the stuff has changed, and it sounds like it's going to continue to change in the future for those who don't know. Let's start off though, before we get to kind of the future and what we're going to get to. Let's start off and talk about what has happened, because that's going to inform what we think and what we expect for the future of ESO. And you'll excuse me, I need some water. I can't wait for them blue flames on TK. Yeah. It's going to be really cool. All right. So public test server, we got the summary on Friday, and hopefully, guys, if you haven't checked out Skinny Cheeks video on this, Skinny Cheeks always does great work. I always recommend Skinny Cheeks to everybody for ESO content. So we're not going to read all the way through this because I think it'll take us a lot of time, and I think we can kind of briefly go through. Just to kind of summarize what has happened with the DK to catch everybody up, let's get everybody on the same page, is basically what we've seen is the changes to the DK have largely made, if you stick with just pure DK, you're in a comfortable range. Now, I'm not going to give you an exact DPS number for reasons I'll talk about in a second, but if you go pure DK for DPS, you're going to end up in a decent spot, okay? In the 130s, 140s, hopefully somewhere in there is what we're looking for. That's where you can end up. And they've also made it where you got this flame breath, this channeled ability that they've changed a few times, and a few other things that basically is a alternative play style that is low CPM, clicks per minute, button presses per minute. And so it works very similar to the beam. I want to say that it's like the DK's version of a beam because it really is. And but I don't want to like sell it short by just saying that, right? It does function a little bit different. There's some subtlety and everything else. And again, today we're kind of going overview, so I'm not going to go super in detail. We've talked about more of that stuff in the past. It's in a decent spot. If you're going pure DK for healing, you're in a much better spot. If you're going pure DK for tanking, you are in a little bit better spot. But DK tanking was as far as pure class, it's long been, I mean, just in memory, I'm sure there was a time where it wasn't, but just for the longest time, it has been, considered the best class. I think it really just depends on your play style and everything else to a large degree at this point in time, but it's still very good. So they didn't do anything crazy with it, but they did make some changes to it, made some things that made it better. So that's great news. Multi-classing. I think this is the thing that a lot of us have been looking for. Well, I would say the majority of people were looking for, hey, can you please fix where I can just play pure DK? And depending on what they ultimately do, I think maybe they've arrived there. It's hard to give you a straight answer because of what they're doing is not giving us a straight answer. But it is better. It is improved. The question will be, is it enough? Is it what we're really looking for, et cetera, et cetera? But I think overall, good news. One of the things that I really have to point out here, and I don't mean to be a negative Nancy, but it's a little bit crazy, is General Dragonite class, in this section here, General Dragonite class balance and power, so feedback. They said, we're continuing to monitoring your feedback following the latest Dragonite class refresh update we shared here. We have seen some reports that Dragonite damage output seems to have gone down between PTS Week 3 and PTS Week 4. We are seeing the same thing on our end and are digging into it. Thank you again to everyone who has contributed bug reports, feedback, and the discussion during the PTS cycle. We greatly appreciate your collaboration. I just want to say that this, greatly appreciate your collaboration is, it just feels, I know this is probably a communication person or whatever. If they greatly appreciate our collaboration, they would make PTS easier to use and to give feedback on. And if they did, and so it just rings hollow as empty words to me. But I digress. So why did the damage between PTS week 3 and week 4 go down? Well, Skinny Cheeks and I imagine some other people have looked into this, and they figured it out. Before Zoss did. I will note that. Way before Zoss did. And I think this is also a little bit of the frustrating thing is that Skinny Cheeks and other people have figured this out and can tell Zoss what this is. And I think this is a little bit of where the disrespect and the not feeling like we're really appreciated comes in. Is because, Zoss doesn't always listen to us, and it's clear that as it has been for many years, that the players know more about the game than the developers do. And let me explain. I will give you proof of that for the 100th time, right? So the way that the DPS is calculated in ESO, and I probably should have I could pull up a notepad and do this. I don't know. It'll just be for the math nerds who probably don't need it. So let me just explain it with words. Okay. If you guys really want me to, I'll pull up a notepad and I can write it out or whatever. But the way the formula works, and I'm going to simplify a little bit. I'm just going to simplify to the parts we care about, is that you'll take, if you have something that adds a bit of damage, right? There's two different ways typically of doing this in games, if you've heard of this: multiplicative and additive, right? So if we say that, hey, this does an extra 10% damage, and this does an extra 10% damage, and this does an extra 10% damage, and we add those three together, we get an extra 30% damage. Well, the problem with a lot of games, and most games really, especially digital games at least, is that we get a lot of things that add to all of our damage. And there's base damage calculation, that's something else, right? But these plus percentages in this case is what we're concerned about. Another way of doing that, so that those 10% don't add up to 30%, you get a big damage increase and you get damage creep very easily, is you do multiplicative. So that's additive. The other way to do it is multiplicative. And so you take this and you take 1.1, which is 10% times 1.1 times 1.1, and you multiply those together, and you'll get something smaller than a 30% damage increase. Now ESO does that, but the formula is much more complicated. It's fairly long, and there's two. There's several, but there's a couple of main categories you want to concern yourself with, and this comes into play with a couple of sets that I've pulled up here. So here we have Deadly Strike. I'll make this a little bit larger. And this is something that some of you guys have asked me about before. And then we have Tideborn Windstalker. So if we read this, it says increases your damage done to monsters by 12%. These aren't always correct. I just pulled this up so I could have something, by the way, just to show you guys, by 12%. Okay, so your direct damage done to monsters. To monsters is important here. And then if we look at a set like Deadly Strike, it increases your damage over time and channeled attacks by 15%. Notice it doesn't say two monsters. And the way it works and what we've seen in recent memory is that there is a category for two monsters. And then there's a category that is just bonus percent damage. And the two monsters category, so the more stuff you put in any one category and you multiply it together, which is how the formula is done, the more multiplication you have in there, the less the actual benefit is, right? We said each one of those things you multiplied. So if we take, if we add another thing to this bucket, is what everybody typically calls it, right? Into this brackets, this parentheses in the equation, you'll get a smaller number. And people have noticed recently with Tideborn Windstalker, that sorry guys, I'm trying to make this very easy to understand. So if and I know most people probably won't want to ask a question if you don't understand, but please tell me if you don't. But people have asked, hey, why Tideborn Windstalker says 12%, but Deadly Strike does 15%. And I've had people that have, not super sweaty in-game players, but people that are really interested in the game and spend a lot of time parsing, and they want to find the best thing because that's kind of how they have fun, is by optimizing, right? There's a lot of us like that. And they go, well, it actually seems like in some cases, Tideborn Windstalker, that 12% damage, it's at least doing, it seems like it's the same amount, but it might even do more than Deadly Strike with 15%, running the exact same setup, right? And obviously these have a little bit different effects. This is damage over time and channeled effects, and this is direct damage, so it could be affecting a few different things, and it will. But what's the difference in the damage? Why is this 12%, seem like it's the same as this 15%? And basically, what has been discovered in recent memory, the last couple of years, is that hey, this damage done to monsters, this bucket, if you will, has a lot less things in it. So if you add, or rather you multiply in by I guess add in, not like the mathematical formula of adding in, but if you add in more things into that bucket, there's fewer things in there. And I've gone over this in detail in damage mitigation videos working in a similar way. And you get this 12% ends up being fairly close to this 15%. In some cases, it's even better. Okay. So bonus damage done tends to be better. And so we know this about the game. And so whenever you see a bonus to monsters, you got to know that it's not a lot, but it's going to be a little bit more than if it's just a bonus damage done because of the bucket it goes in. Now, again, in the past several years, we've gone very in depth into talking about issues that ZOS had where they didn't understand their own damage mitigation formulas, their own damage calculation formulas. In the case of damage mitigation, they added a new bucket, and then those are, I think they're additive with each other, if I'm recalling correctly. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, you could get 100% damage mitigation because if you add those things and you've got a bunch of percent damage decreases, you can get to 100% damage decrease. And this was actually a bug that was in the game for years, and people in PvP would have used it for literal years. If you were a vampire and you were low health, you would get higher damage mitigation, and that was something that was in another bucket. And there was a lot of different times where you could get 100% damage mitigation. You literally couldn't die. So if you've ever been incredibly frustrated with a game and I literally can't seem to do any damage to this person, that might have literally been true. And it got to the point where people were doing it in PvE, and with some changes that had happened, and somebody did a video on it or talked about it or whatever, and it was right. So this has happened before. Well, what is going on over here is the difference between the PTS week 3 and week 4 appears to be that some of the damage increase that we were getting was moved from one of these buckets, the general damage increase bucket, to the damage to from the damage to monster increase bucket to the general damage bucket, and that resulted in about a 10k DPS loss for people parsing near theoretical max, and this was a big damage loss. And ZOS didn't understand why this happened, and Skinny Cheeks has a video. I actually pulled it up here so I could show you guys. Maybe not. Did I not? Here, hold on. I'll link it so you guys can go take a look because he explains this in more detail in his video. Let me just pull it up for you guys real quick, and I could just drop a link. There we go. Yeah. So if you want to go, check that out or whatever later, I'll just pop it in here. But as the thing is hey, a mistake was made, something was done. The bigger problem is again the continued incompetence by ZOS, that they didn't know that this was going to happen. They're investigating. They didn't understand what was going on, and I think it's a little bit complicated as far as what exactly is going on over at ZOS, but we do continue to see just gross incompetence. And this is the thing that I was honestly afraid of with the changes. A lot of us hey, a lot of the top management is gone. Obviously, they did away with some stuff they were working on. Microsoft did with what, ZOS and the parent company and everything was working on. And there were some changes in management, which is okay, that's great. But, there's Rich Lambert is still there. And a lot of the other people are still there. They're still, it seems like a lot of the same people. Some of them have left, whatever, but it doesn't seem like we're seeing as large of changes as we would hope for. There's definitely been a switch in marketing and what they're telling us, but we're still again seeing the same thing, right? During the live stream they did at the beginning of January, where which was the one they had told us about in the director's letter to, hey, come to the January live stream. We're going to tell you all about this stuff. We kind of saw some things where, again, they said, hey, we've made the right decisions in the past. And again, refusing to admit fault. Refusing to be like, yeah, you know what, we screwed up. We were doing things that were wrong. No, still self-congratulatory, still saying, hey, we made all the right decisions in the past. And we're seeing that kind of carry through. And it's a little bit disheartening, to be totally honest with you. I'm still continue trying to be hopeful, but them not understanding the basics of how damage is calculated in the game is alarming. Right? And it doesn't give me, and I'm sure it doesn't give you guys, a lot of faith that they're going to continue or they're going to somehow, be turning over a new leaf moving forward. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a little bit concerning about this in particular, but Zoss has never done anything wrong. Just ask them. Yes, Kelvar that is literally the mentality that they have. And the phrase that comes to mind is a self-licking ice cream cone. For those who are not familiar with this term, it's something that I learned about in the military. And a self-licking ice cream cone is basically when you have a part of an organization that seems to exist for no other person than to perpetuate its own existence. They make work for themselves and they make problems for themselves and then they solve them, right? Which this might sound like somebody, there's somebody very prominent in politics that does this right now a lot, but the idea that it does really seem like things were going well and then they made a problem for themselves that they can now solve. And that just seems to be continually the case with these guys. And it's just like, what are you doing? I want to point out another thing, because I was, I try to keep up on this stuff, right? Like, it's my job. I went through and read some of this stuff, rereading through and taking a look. But one thing that has struck out to me again, and I just want to make sure that I'm pointing it out to you guys. They said here the Dragon Knight class refresh arrives March 9th. There it is. There's the date. As part of the update 49 in season 0. Let us know what you think, right? Well, they say, are you ready to bring flames and ruin to your foes with our reworked Dragon Knight? And then it says, let us know via Blue Sky, X, Instagram, Facebook, right? I just want to point out that what media personnel at companies, what they continue to do, these companies, is they will tell you whenever you have something good to say, please tell everybody on social media. Whenever you have something bad to say, please only tell us in the forums. And if a company was trying to collect feedback from their players, I understand wanting it in one place, and they have improved the forums, but I just want to encourage you not to do this. Like, if you're going to give good and bad news in these places, let people know. Don't trick people with hype by only telling them the good news. You know what? For someone like me, it is better to be able to come out and say everything is all good or all bad, because the extremes are what everybody kind of wants to see, right? You see a thumbnail and it's like, ESO is burning down. People will click on that. And then you see thumbnails that are like, ESO is the best thing and the best MMO going right now. People will also click on that. The truth is almost always something more nuanced, and that tends to get less clicks, but let people know, okay? That's what we try to do here. So we try to give both sides. We try to give a nuanced approach and not just be like, it's all good or it's all bad, because I don't want people, people are thinking about coming back to the game. Some people have. I want the game to do well. I want my friends to come back. I want more people to come back, but I want them to do it because of reality and not because of hype. So anyways, let's move on and talk about this roadmap here. So a couple of things here, and I want to ask you guys, I don't remember what happened. They mentioned in session 0 is what you call it in D&D whenever you're like before the first time, when you're making characters and stuff, before you're actually playing. So I always want to say session whenever I see season 0, but they say new overland difficulty options. Did they, I forgot what they did. Did they just tell us they were pushing this back? Or have they just not talked about this anymore? Does anybody recall? I want to say they told us they were pushing it back, but I actually don't remember like for sure, and I couldn't find anything about it. But they said it was coming in season 0. And obviously there was nothing about it in the patch notes. So I can't imagine it's actually coming with, you know, the March update, right? Because someone was asking me about that the other day, and I was like, actually, I don't remember. I know they told us they were bringing it, but what did they tell us they were going to bring us? Okay, so just kind of look at this. They said, you know, group event zone, the night market, you know, and then there was a lot of hype about telling us about everything they were going to change. Battle pass system, right? Which is again just what they're doing is they're bringing with the battle pass system, guys. What they're doing is we're bringing what they currently do into industry. So in the gaming industry, more free to play models, they're bringing it up to industry standards. So that's what they're doing with the battle pass system. I know they've said, hey, we're doing it for you guys and blah, blah, blah. That's not true, guys. They're just bringing it up to industry standards. Will that maybe benefit players? I mean, in theory, they're doing it because they expect to get more playtime out of players, which they think will translate to money. So they are doing it for us, but they're really doing it just to make more money. And you know, if you play more, in theory, you're enjoying it more. But also, there's some, you know, some usury there and some psychological tricks they're definitely going to be using. And then you know, the night market. This is, you know, some of this night market stuff has been blatantly, you know, a lot of people that play other MMOs are like, yeah, this sounds like what they did in WoW. This sounds like what they did in, you know, other games. And so, again, a little bit of lack of originality we're continuing to see, which, you know, the developers actually of ESO actually being like WoW players, I think we've seen that a lot through the years. And it's like, man, I wish they would play the game they make. Kelvar says, I haven't heard anything. That said, I'm not a fan of the model of increasing difficulty. Nerfing the players seems to be, to me, the wrong direction. Well, they're adding a difficulty. So it's an optional thing for Overland. Kelvar, yeah. So it shouldn't matter. It should just be like an extra difficulty for those who want it. Yeah. And then earning rewards. Yeah, they changed the reward system. Kind of the same deal here. This goes with the battle pass. They are adding, you know, some PvP stuff, which I know PvP players are very excited about. And then, you know, they said new Overland difficulty options, challenge difficulty. They've mentioned about the Overland difficulty about adding all kinds of stuff from like boss difficulty to having like, they've said some stuff that's a little bit hard to, I'm just not sure exactly what they're going to do. But the DK changes. I think this is the big thing, right? Not to take too long to get to it, but the DK and the class update changes. Now, I did a video a while back, and I went back and rewatched that, and I was like, was I on the right track? Was I on the wrong track? What's going on? And, you know, I was certainly under the impression that they were going to make some big changes to the actual core class, and they were going to make it, I mean, I think they told us that they were going to make the individual class skill lines to where you really wanted to use them. They were more viable. And it seems like, right, so what I was thinking is that, you know, what it sounded like to me is they're going to rework, I mean, they say they're going to rework these classes, is what they told us. They said they were going to rework the classes, and they wanted people to be able to, you know, they wanted each class to offer something for each spec. So there was a reason to take that skill line. They told us this, right? And in theory, what that would look like in a perfect world, which obviously we don't live in a perfect world, but in theory, what that would look like in a perfect world is that, sorry, let me change my lighting real quick. I'm just realizing it's a little bit messed up. In theory, what that would look like in a perfect world is that each class skill line would have something to offer. For tanks, for healers, for DPS, that there would be a reason and a good reason. There's always going to be a best. There's always going to be a worst. But in theory, there would always be a reason to take each class skill line. And that's why they were doing this kind of different thing, or very different thing, where they're only going to do one class right now. And then the next 3 months, they're going to do a different class. And the next 3 months, they're going to do a different class. And so it's going to take them over 2 years, 2 years and an extra quarter, 2.25 years, to go through all of the class skill lines and fix them, right? And it was like, okay, this is different. These are big changes. etc. Well, what it looks like they're actually doing, and this is, now that we've been on PTS for several weeks now, is what they actually are going to do. First off, the visuals and the skills themselves, they're redoing all of it. Okay, so every single skill, just about, with few exceptions, they're redoing. They also tweaked the two-handed weapon skill line as well. We'll talk about more about that in a second. But they redid all the visuals. As far as balance updates, and I think I don't know if I feel like they've walked back what they're saying about this, but what they've actually decided to do is make a few small changes. That's what they've decided to do. There's been, now you might say like, hey, the Dragon's Breath is a big change. I mean, I would say, yeah, there was a couple of significant changes, right? To some of the ultimates, to some of the skills and what have you. The overall shape of the DK class, as I've mentioned before, if you played a pure DK, or even if you played a multi-class DK before patch 49, the difference in after patch 49 is literally nothing. You've got a few optional skills. You might literally nothing. Maybe I don't know. It feels like literally nothing, guys. You might run a different morph, but you might have been running that morph anyways. And you've got a couple of optional skills. That doesn't really change anything. Like literally the skills go in the same spot, because I make builds. I was looking at doing this and I looked at it and I'm like, oh, it's the exact same build with a couple of options now. And a couple of notes that a couple of skills do a little bit something different. If you look at healer, they have changed it. Before, there was no reason to take any DK skill line as a healer. Even ones you wanted to, it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't good enough. You didn't want to do it. Now there is one skill line that is worth taking. And there's a second one that's not worth taking, but isn't horrible, I guess. And that's about all I can say about that. For DPS, they have, if you're running a straight, and if you're running straight DK, actually any role, it has improved a decent amount. Enough, I think. Enough that it's not like, oh God, I'm rolling my eyes because this person's playing a straight DK. Okay? They don't do as much damage. They probably never were going to do as much damage. I would love to see that gap be a lot smaller. It could be a lot smaller, but that's what they've kind of decided to do. So for, all of these refreshes, what we're actually looking like is going to happen in the future is we went from like, hey, they're going to redo these skill lines, it's going to look totally different, to we've made a few minor tweaks. And if you are playing a class that is going to be taken care of in 2 years from today, then you can look forward to some minor tweaks and a complete visual refresh. So what it looks like is they're slapping a new coat of paint on it and calling it new is what it feels like. And they are addressing some of the issues, but it doesn't feel incredibly transformative as far as how it's going to play, with the exception of if you were a DK and you want to use the breath, that is pretty huge. It's pretty massive. Which, you know what, for DPS, that is most of the community, right? So that is a big deal for those people that are playing. But I do know friends that after this update, they have quit. They were on the verge. They were going to see what's going to happen here, and this was not enough to bring them back. Now, I hope that I am wrong about this. I hope that the average player loves this and thinks it's amazing and wants to come back for it. I think the visual refresh is a great idea. I think it's excellent. I'm excited for it. Would love the game to look better and like to solve some of the stuff. There's also issues with visual clutter, as there is with most MMOs after a while. Love that, but it does seem like most of what is happening is a fresh coat of paint is being slapped on it. If you guys, I'm going to read some comments here. If you have a different opinion, If you feel like I'm wrong, please let me know. I want to hear other opinions, but that's what this kind of all shapes up to me. And if you agree, tell me that as well. We can see if we got some kind of consensus here. Kelvar says, this is from earlier too. Sorry, Kelvar. Kelvar says, I know it's optional, but unless I'm wrong, you could be fighting a delve boss in the hardest mode, and a random player on easy can come up and one-shot it. Oh, okay. Terrific. That's going to be absolutely horrible. We'll see what happens. Kelvar says, this is a more recent comment. I've been loosely following DK. If I am a DK tank, do I still want to subclass, or is a pure DK tank viable? Kelvar, a pure DK tank is viable, and it's gotten a little bit better, is basically what it comes down to. But DK tank was already really good, so it doesn't really change a whole lot. And if you're a multi-class DK tank, it also got a little bit better. That's the main thing. Hey, Luna, good to see you. Luna says, we should ask ourselves if people want a major change in classes. Maybe this is a good mid-ground. Well, I don't think that people want them to reinvent the game again like they did with subclassing. But again, my understanding was the promise that we were going to have a reason to want to take every single skill line as every single spec, and that is so far from the truth. So far from the truth. Like, there's just, again, one for healer. Tank hasn't changed at all. Still probably one skill line that you're going to want to run. That's pretty much it. If you go, yeah. And if you're a DPS, it has changed up a decent amount for DPS. But again, you got to question, since they don't seem to understand how their own damage formula works, like how are things going to turn out? And also the question of, for me, is like, why didn't they up pure DK damage more? You know, I guess we'll see what actually goes live and what they do. Because in theory, once they've done this one, once this hits live, they're done with it, and then they move on to Warden. And it's like, are they going to be able to do this? But I am with you, Luna, in that we don't want them to reinvent the whole way combat works again. I absolutely agree with you on that, which I think is your point. I haven't checked the most recent changes, but I think in terms of tanking, it looks worse than how it is on live. Oh, really? I think they added some interesting abilities. I thought it was pretty interesting what they did. I don't know. I personally thought it was cool. They did revert the nerfs, Luna, to your favorite skill, to Stone Giant, which is now called something else. They did revert those changes, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. They actually reverted them in a couple different ways. One of them that's not amazing. I think they went back to a 6-second duration and up the damage to what it was originally. Last I checked, unless I missed something. Kelvar says, wait, they are not going to see the impact on live and balance. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Kelvar, I don't know what they're going to do, but I mean, the whole point in doing this in these, we're doing one class, then we're doing the other. If they do one class and then they're still working on it and they keep doing that, isn't that basically, I don't know. They'll probably do it some, but if they keep doing that, it's going to push these things out even further, is what's going to happen. Franny says, we don't complain enough on the forums. We should form unions. I don't think, I mean, they're finally starting to listen some on the forums, but I think that if you really want them to listen, you have to hit them where it hurts. And that is by doing it not on the forums, by doing it on all of the various social media platforms, telling your friends, talking to your friends about it. Because that's what really matters. Because remember, these guys don't seem to care about anything but money. And if they start losing money, then they'll listen. That's the only reason they've started listening so far, is because a lot of people have quit the game and they realized they had to do something different. I think that's the only way to get them to actually listen, is to hit them in the pocketbook. Well, if Stagger, it's there, we will still run it, but losing Mountain's Blessing is still a nerf in my opinion. Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Let me pull up. Let me pull up something real quick so we can take a look at it. Where didn't they move it though, Luna? Now I'm like, where did they put it? I thought they just moved it onto a DPS skill line. Not false. We can try the oh my God, the Epstein plate ESO. No, I think just talking about this stuff and just addressing it and just saying, hey, what is actually going on, so that people, because what they sold us is they were going to rework this stuff more than they actually have. Because there's no chance for a tank to get more than one skill line from DK. They moved it to Draconic Power. Yeah, yeah. I just assumed that we would have a DK DPS running it, Luna. But that was my thought on that. But yeah, you're saying that it's like a little bit, it's worse because the DK. Yeah, that's also in a very like optimized situation too. That's for you. Luna's a very skilled player and plays at a very high level. So I think that for the average group, actually, I say that it would be nice to still have it for pug groups who aren't running expensive potions. So it doesn't matter for like the middle tier players, I guess. Middle tier being like what I'm defining here. It's kind of is like veteran players. I think your average veteran player. We will probably have a DD with Draconic and it will be fine, but for tanking, it's not like anything changed. Yeah, exactly. And so, again, we were promised that things were going to change and improve. Also, with a two-handed weapon skill line, it seems like the two-handed weapon skill line was one that really just needed a couple of tweaks. Players have wanted for years and years to be able to run two-handed weapons on their front bar for RP purposes, and it's always underperformed every other option to the point that you didn't want to run it. And that has just been the case for years and years, and they don't seem to understand what players actually want them to change with two-handed skill line, which is like another problem. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I said that, Luna, though, but like you're right. For the average group, they probably don't even bring all those buffs. So the fact that you would have a tank that was providing it was probably great. You know what I mean? For those average groups. So I do think it matters for more than just the sweaty income groups. I think it probably matters just as much for your average player, that they're not potentially not going to get that buff anymore. It being on a DPS, like maybe that'll be fine. But yeah. The other thing is like Draconic Power. It'll be less of an issue though too, because if you do have a DK DPS, the chances are they're going to be running the Breath, which looks really cool and is a cool ability, cool skill. So the chances are they're going to have Draconic Power anyways. So probably they'll just have it up if they're doing that. So maybe they moved it to where they would get more damage in that for those DPS if they're in an unoptimized group. But I don't know. The tank is definitely bringing a little bit less. That's fair. I was thinking about from a survival aspect and not like an increased damage aspect. The DK has improved a bit. Avenging Noob says there's no way they don't know when so many people are telling them it. They're choosing to play dumb. In regards to what exactly, Noob? Because I think with a lot of things, so you have an excellent point there, and maybe let's talk about that a little bit more. Luna says pure class in a DPS is a DPS thing, in my opinion. Like like not wanting to do it on anybody else. I mean, again, they didn't. That's my point. That's my point, Luna, is that I think they didn't fulfill on their promise. That's the TLDR and what I'm trying to tell you guys. And the whole thing is like they promised us a rework and they were going to change some things and there would be a reason to take each skill line and everything else. And that's clearly not what they're doing. What they're doing is a little bit, they've done tweaks, they've done changes this big in a normal PTS cycle. Have they not? I mean, am I wrong here? But they have. Like I'm positive they have. I cover this stuff. Like they've done changes that are this, maybe not quite as many, but they've done changes like what they've done here in the normal PTS cycle with other classes. They've totally changed up skills and moved them around, and that's all they're doing. That's all they've done. Avenging Noob says the buffing of two hands for use on your main bar instead of just being buff for solo weapons. Okay. Yeah. Avenging Noob, man. So I'm going to disagree with you there, man, because you probably weren't here earlier, but we went through about how they made changes and they accidentally nerfed the damage going from week 3 to week 4 because they didn't understand their own DPS formulas. But I think there's two sides of it, man. So I just don't want to assign malicious intent. There's like some, I forget what it's some Razor or somebody's, saying, but about not assigning malicious intent when gross incompetence will explain it. So I don't want to assign malicious intent to them. Like they're just ignoring us. I mean, sometimes maybe just ignoring us. They probably are, but I really do just think it's gross incompetence, to be totally honest with you. The way in which I 100% agree with you though, and so I don't know, maybe we agree completely. I don't know, but with the damage and stuff, somebody there, at least in the past, does know what's going on, and it does seem like they could have buffed the pure DK class damage up to where it was pretty much the same as multi-classing. They chose not to. And they could have changed these class skill lines to where you would want to bring any given skill line on a healer. They chose not to, or they lack the ability. That's honestly what I think it is. And so in that regard, I would absolutely agree with you, Noob, that like, yeah, what they are doing is what they want to do, and it's not what most players want. And they are either too obstinate to listen to us, or they're too incompetent to listen to us. And I think the truth is actually option C, all of the above. I think it's a handful of incompetence. I think it's a handful of obstinance, and they thinking they know better than players, and combine those two together, and that's what we got, which is what's been going on for a while. So is it all doom and gloom? Is it all terrible? No. But I don't see this as being, hey, puppy balls, I don't see this as being a huge change from what they have been doing. This looks like they are finally starting to listen a little bit to players, but it really feels like so much of ZOS is that self-licking ice cream cone. It exists to perpetuate its own existence at this point, and the changes are what the changes are. So, yeah, and it just kind of seems like that's what it is. The monetization is probably going to get worse. The changes, the night market, honestly, seems like it sucks to me. I really don't like the way it's put together. That doesn't mean you guys will. I hope that everybody likes it. I hope everybody finds it incredibly enjoyable. But it's been a little bit disappointing. Luna says, yeah, it's not all what we wanted, but still a step in the right direction. Yeah. There is a step in the right direction here, but I don't think it's the turning over a new leaf, which I think is what a lot of people really were looking for with this new update. And it's a lot of people were sticking around, and a lot of people were considering or have, been considering coming back. There's a lot to like. But I don't think, and it'll bring some number of people back. But this is not. ZOS was heading in one direction, and they some people left, some people got fired, and it was like maybe they're gonna do like a 180. They're gonna totally turn the ship around, and it appears that a 180 is not in the cards. We might get like a 30-degree turn, maybe a 45-degree turn, but we're not getting anywhere close to a 90 or 180-degree turn with all of this stuff. That's what it appears. Now, when season 1 comes out, when season 2 comes out, maybe we'll see something else. Maybe they'll knock it out of the park with the overland changes. I certainly hope so. But based on the evidence that we've had so far, it doesn't appear that way. Guys, let me kick to a commercial real quick. I know not everybody will go, but we'll just kind of hang out, let everybody, got to pay these bills, so we'll give everybody a minute to come back. Puppy Ball says, hey, tonight went bowling, went okay, broke the lane twice. Oh no, capping up all night, had to switch lanes. I think I'm too strong. Oh man. Puppy Balls is a Canadian serious bowling player. 9-pin, serious 9-pin player. It's up in Canada, which is, I think, more what they play up there. I don't know. I know we do it some here, but not a lot. Yeah, I know. I know that a decent number of people, have premium. I just didn't want to keep talking about ESO and stuff. Yeah, I was hopeful about the January stream, but it took a weight and see attitude. I agree, it's a little bit better, but I don't see a fundamental shift. Yeah, and I would say Kelvar, like with that January stream too, it wasn't the most promising thing. I still don't think they're getting it. I really don't. I watched those streams and I could go through it piece by piece, but it might sound petty to some, but I really just don't think they're getting it, and I don't think. There just needs to be more of a mix-up in people there, and there needs to be some people with a different outlook. Whenever I heard them say that, the past decisions were good, I was just like, again, self-congratulatory kind of nonsense, honestly. All right, guys. Well, I don't really have much else to say on ESO right now. I think that's it. We're not this stream. We're going to stop talking about ESO, but I actually want to jump in and play some Dune Awakening, guys. Dune Awakening, guys, if you're looking for an MMO, I don't know why it hasn't gotten more traction. Maybe it's just me, but Dune Awakening is an amazing, amazing MMO, and I think it's the best one out right now. We were waiting for new content to drop in Dune, and it finally has, and it's incredibly fun. I know not everybody is going to like the flavor of it. Not everybody likes Dune. Not everybody likes the sci-fi stuff. My wife is actually one of those people. So it's just a non-starter, for some people. Just like other games are non-starters, right? Like some people don't like Final Fantasy. They don't like the anime flavor and everything else. But if you're at all interested, I told some people to wait. You could wait. There's several hundred hours. There has been for a while. Stay hydrated, my friend. Nani says. And when the game launched, it had several hundred hours. You could play with people or you could play solo, but of just story content, learning the game, incredibly fun. And then you got to end game, and the end game had a lot of fun stuff, but there were also some major problems. And if you compare. I'm trying not to be too harsh, guys, but if you compare, the developers at ZOS, if you compare ZOS, the company, to Arrowhead, to Larian Studios, or to Funcom, who makes Dune Awakening, you got Arrowhead is 10 out of 10. You got Larian, I still think 10 out of 10. And then you've got the folks over at Funcom. I'm not willing to say yet they're a 10 out of 10, but they're high. They're highly rated. ZOS is, I don't know, somewhere below a 5 probably. These guys are at least well north of a 5, okay? They listen to feedback. They act upon it. The biggest problem I think that a lot of players have is that it doesn't happen fast enough. And I say this, when I was playing the other day on stream, I was, and afterwards, I got seriously tilted. The game wasn't playing right. I was pissed off. That stuff has happened before. I've never been as pissed off as I was this weekend on it. And so I really think they need to make some changes because the game wasn't playing right. It was rubber banding really bad. I won't judge everything on that one situation. So don't think I'm just glazing on them, but still overall, it is by far, I think the best MMO out on the market by degrees. By degrees. Sorry, just the last question. Oh, no. You're welcome. Yeah. Just the last question. I'm stuffing heals to go in raid. Pearls El Nofe is still used, or is it better to go all-time trample? Pearls is just fine, Franny. It's still good. A lot of people still want it because you don't have another better mythic to put there, and so it still works just fine in your rotation. I don't use it anymore because my finger literally hurt from spamming combat prayer so much that I just refuse to use it, and I only use trample now. But it's actually better than trample, and if you don't have a better mythic to use, yeah, it's just fine, which is not going to be one. So, yeah, that's going to be more optimal for a sweaty group. So, yeah, just fine to use pearls. All right, guys. Well, we are... so this is the guild hall here, guys, the guild base. And we all have really nice bases. Actually, everybody kind of builds their own, but it's here for everybody else's use. But we're gonna end this stream here, and we're gonna pop over to the Dune stream. I love that Nani says, I love that the guild is made up of all types of players. Those that like to gather, quest, PvP, it all works together for the guild as a whole. Yeah, absolutely. So what Nani is talking about in Dune here is that, like, Nani will PvP, some, right? And she's open to the idea, but she also, I think, feels like she's not going to be, elite PvP player, right? That's totally fair. There are other people in the guild that don't want to PvP at all. And if they're in a PvP zone and someone attacks them, it's just kind of like, well, I'm going to die. And you lose stuff whenever you die, guys, okay? So it's like, yeah, I just don't want to PvP, don't really have any interest in it. You can see there's construction ongoing here. And in Dune, we can all get together and we can all go do activities. Kind of like going to Cyrodiil, where we all get to go out there, but some people are literally kind of non-combatants. They drive various spice crawlers, and there's also a carrier, so that's a carrier back there. It flies a lot differently than this very agile scout. Oh, is that Nani? Hello! I don't know who that is. And then you've got, there's a bunch of different vehicles, there's a ton of weapons, a ton of different play styles, and it's really cool that everybody can kind of play together. I bet that is Nani. I'm going to jump into comms here.
Me. Hello.
Nani, I will jump into comms, and that was in the boss if you want to join me. Oh, that's probably not the right place. There we go. Nani says, have you cover me when I get attacked or run away? Yeah, exactly. And you can all play together, which I think is what is like one of the core things of an MMO. And if you like to gather and do quests, you can do that. Recently, we all worked together to do the Landsrad stuff, which is you get rewards. So we chose to go with, we won, our faction won, which is a bunch of people from different guilds that are all in the same faction, similar to ESO. And we chose exclusive vehicle import rights. And what this does, it gives you unique items that are for your vehicles. And because our guild, we were first. I think it's bugged out, but we're second now. That wasn't Shai Halud. You can see our voting power. And before we voted on this, it's now got the majority of the votes. But before we voted on this, nobody had voted on it because somebody had put like 70,000 to this, and they had put like 80,000 to this, but we had almost 100,000 votes by ourselves. And once we voted for this, and they saw, okay, the smaller guilds were like, hey, we could like, this is an option that we want. Now that a big guild has put some votes behind it, we can, our votes won't be wasted if we vote for this, and it's what we want. So we were able to influence and make sure that we got these vehicle import rights, which is really cool, because the Honor of the Fallen is not good. We didn't want that, and the weapons rights are okay, but not really necessary. So, yeah, and the weapons rights would have been fine, but that's how, I mean, and again, you can influence that just by being a quester, by, there's just so much stuff you can do, and they've added so much new content to the game, and they've also added a bunch of increased difficulties. I still think the game will be even better in another year, so don't get me wrong there if you still want to wait, but if you were thinking about buying in, I haven't been playing because I ran through the content. There's a lot more content in the game now, and I think it's a good time. I think there's also going to be a PvP update sometime this year. I think that's going to be pretty huge, honestly. I like PvEing. I like PvPing in this game. And, yeah, I just can't recommend it enough, guys. It's so much fun. There's so many different vehicles. There's ground-based vehicles. You got the carts here that all kind of, handle differently. You've got, I don't even have all of them to show you right now, but an example, one of the two different kinds of land bikes, sand bikes that you can have here, the housing. I mean, all of this we built, right? And like, I'm not very good at building housing. Frey has helped us make it look a lot better, but you can do some crazy things. And there's a lot more things you can build in it. The thing is, not to fire too many shots at ESO, but housing doesn't cost a fortune either. It doesn't, you don't have to take out a loan to buy a new house. You can just go build one. And yeah, just so many different things you can do. I love it. And if you look at their other games, what they've done in their other games is they continue to add housing and style stuff. So what we have now, there's all different kinds of totally different styles you can choose from, and there's also like furniture and lighting and all kinds of stuff you can do, which is crazy and awesome. You can make, I mean, you can make a table with Caledon wine sitting there. You could make all kinds of bookshelves, holograms, you name it, you can do it. And if you look at what they did with their previous games, they just are going to add more and more of this kind of stuff to the game. And I think it's incredibly fun. Like I said, I do housing in this game, guys. And you getting me to do any kind of housing stuff is like pulling teeth in ESO. So, and you get to place your house anywhere. And it's open, it's not instanced. So cool. So cool. Absolutely love it. I mean, we could go for like a tour. I'm not going to do a housing tour because I'm still not that into housing, but I mean that you can just pick a spot if there's not someone else there, right? Like these are all player houses, almost all of these. All these in front of you are like that thing over there and that thing there are NPCs, but that's player built. These things are all player built. Like this person built like a giant tower thing. Yeah. Anyway, so much to recommend it. All right, guys, I'm going to end the stream here. We're going to kick you.
Show them my treehouse.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got to make sure I'm going to the right one because you moved it, right? Last time I went to the wrong place.
You did.
Yeah.
Down in the rocks.
The game's not perfect. There's nothing wrong with it or whatever. Like I said, I was super tilted over the weekend at it, but there's a lot to like. Yeah, Franny says NA and EU servers are separated. Franny, there is a whole lot more than just that. They actually have a whole bunch of little servers. So one of the lead creative developer, I'm sorry, the guy in charge, the creative, what's his title? Is it creative director? I don't know if it's creative director, but he forms that role. Is this it? Is this your treehouse? Am I at the right place?
Yep, that's me.
Nice. So Donnie is built into the rocks here, and these are all different parts of her base. These are air traps and stuff like this. But Franny, to your point, oh yeah, and like you can kind of block off areas and stuff too. So she's got here for her cart to be able to come out and go mine. But yeah, Franny, there's ones in. So if you're someone who plays on in Asia, if you're someone who plays, they have Australian servers for all the Australian players out there, guys. Which I know, for those who don't know, Australia always suffers with ping in pretty much any game because they usually don't get their own servers. So they do need to merge some of the servers. That's one of the problems right now. Is I think they really need to merge the servers so that. There's not quite so many, but there's a whole bunch. And I could just show you real quick, I guess, all the different servers. But let me kick over to the new stream, guys, so that we're separated there. Let me do that real quick. Actually, let me show you this. So here's all the servers, man. Tons. And so you can find one where you have low latency is the idea, because the game is built around having low latency is the TLDR. All right, let me kick over to the stream, guys. We'll be right back. And it should kick you over here on YouTube. If it doesn't, you know where to find me. If you're on Twitch, just hang out. We'll be right back.